now that we have some power in here, let's throw away some of the stuff that's in here that's not needed. Alright, so I think I'm going to try to take down, pull that insulation down, throw it in the trash, and then pull that laminated whiteboard. Those lights, all those lights are still hooked up and they still work. So let me see if I can get that out of the way real quick. Okay guys, so check this out. As I was taking some of this stuff down, I noticed this. I was trying to figure out why there's so much water got in here. But if you look right here, look at the gap up there on the top. And then down here, it's closed. So if I push on this, it flexes. See it flexing shut? That should be tight up against that wall. So I was thinking, well, maybe I can put a couple of lag screws in there and hold it open. That's kind of a crappy way to do it. So I looked on the bottom down here, and there's a way with the legs that hold this thing out and move it out. There's a way to take that thing and tilt it down this way. There's 3 adjusters on it. And so I'm going to try to get those to close that in, and then get the ladder and then look up on that top edge and see if I can see light, because it looks terrible up there. Check this out real quick before we start on that. All the way down there you can see light. The rubber seal is not tight, so water is just going to flow in there, especially if it's angled back. So I am going to adjust those real quick. That moved. That moved a half inch. Let's see if it did anything on the inside. Oh, hey, check that out. That did, didn't it? That moved it pretty good. So let's do the middle one and the far one. Okay, I got those all adjusted. Looks like I got it as tight as it's gonna be. And now you can see that that gap is tight all the way there. Back here, it's tight. And looking down at the top down there, it does look like maybe it's boat hair, maybe. But I can't see light anymore coming through there, so maybe we eliminated that water problem that caused this. So I'm going to go to Home Depot and see if I can find some material that's similar to this and buy a couple of sheets of it. And that'll be where we start next. So I hooked up a little fire stick in the back of this TV so I could have something playing while I'm working around in here. And lo and behold, this little fireplace works. I mean, it's kind of neat, right? And it does feel like there's heat coming out, but it's not much. But it's nice. Now on this up here, trying to think of a good way to take all that out. And I did buy a piece of 4x8. It's kind of like dry erase board. And it's you know, made out of pegboard material, a little bit thinner. But it's white, and it'll go up here pretty nice. And you can see up in here, this white continues all the way to the back. I am just simply not going to cut all that out. I'm going to cut it flush here somehow. And this here looks like it's tucked in back behind there, and the cabinet is all the way around there. I'm not taking the cabinets down either. So maybe this will slide out. Take this trim off, maybe this will slide out. And then here I'm just going to cut it flush. Try to just get something up there. So I'll show you the trim here in a minute that I've got to go up here on the bottom. It's all rotted. And then, but first, I need to take a look at this underneath this mattress. This is a Sleep Number mattress, and I can't find the remote control for it anywhere. So I'm going to open it up, get a model number off of it, and see if I can order a remote control for it. So let's start with that real quick. Those two. Oh, those are covers for the sink, is what those are. Oh yeah, there it goes right there. Let's take a picture of that real quick. All right, I'm going to pull some of this trim off here. So let's, I don't know what they're all the same, but I'm going to keep them together. So let's mark this A. B. And the one I already took down is C. got to a stopping point here. Got this all cleaned up just like I wanted. I think I'm going to spray a little bleach on that, a little bleach water mixture, just to make sure there's nothing growing there. And then I measured what I have here to put that whiteboard on, and let me show you that real quick. Okay, so here it is, and if I cut that in half, I have two pieces 24 inches wide, 8 feet long, and that's not quite enough. I'm gonna have to buy another piece of this. This piece of board was $19, and the trim, this right here is how I spliced two of those together. And then here's that bottom trim, kind of an L trim that goes on after everything's in place to finish it off. I don't have enough of that either. I'm a little bit short on it. That is 18 feet. You know what, that might work. I'll have to revisit that. But at any rate, I've got to go get another piece of this. So I'm gonna head out and get that right now, and we'll be back to finish it here in a second. So really, the way I'm thinking this is going to work, guys, is I can make both of these pieces 8 foot long, 24 inches deep, and I'll show you. I think it's going to tuck up underneath where the old stuff was at. And before I tuck it in there, I'll throw some extra insulation I had from this building on top, tape it in place, tuck it in. Okay, so where this light mounts is right up here, and it's got a little ledge for this wood that was there to sit on, so I need to put something in there to screw that into. So that is just under 12 inches. So I'm going to cut a piece of wood to go across there to screw into. Okay, that'll work. Let's pop a hole in there for the wires, well, these wires to come through, and we'll go from there. Well, that hole is in the wrong spot. It's over about a foot. And I think the mistake I made was the piece that I was measuring from the edge was coming from this edge. It had a splice. So it had one piece of wood, a splice, and then it went all the way down there. And I started right here on this corner, marked it off. I am going to drill another hole for this. All right, so those angles right there, that stuff is not going to shove up underneath of these struts right there. So I'm going to do my best to cut it to that shape. And so here's what we got. Watch this. So here's the measurements. I just drew it out, measured it. I think this will get it close. And on this back edge, if it doesn't fit tight or tuck up underneath there, then maybe I can put some quarter round, or I can just put some clear silicone or white silicone on it. So let's mark these real quick. Okay, so that looks pretty good. That was tough to get back in there. I had to come up with all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to let this down just a little bit, and I'm going to tuck as much insulation as I can in there. And I think on this side over here, I'm going to cut back this tight area. This joint piece that goes right here, that piece of wood was hitting right there. I need to cut that back further, for one. And then every point that there's a strut, there's hardly any room in there. So I'm going to have to clean this out much better than that to get that piece in there. But I think it's going to work. Okay, so when these little caps go on there, the little L trim that I bought to go underneath them, it's not wide enough to cover these screw holes, so I'll have to go buy some I don't know, probably like base molding trim, maybe 2-inch, that I could tack up on the bottom of that to cover that up, and it'll look nice. It turned out that was easier to do than that side. Okay, muy bueno. Now, this right here, these are 12 volt, 312 volt lights. I'm going to put those in real quick, make sure they work. I'm going to start on this side with the trim. There's trim that goes up there in that corner, and then the pieces that go across here that I marked. This looks terribly moldy, but I mean, I soaked it in some bleach water, but it's going to get covered up. And then I'll go back in town tonight and I'll buy some probably 1.5 inch or 2-inch base trim to go down there on the bottom. So let's get to it. Let's see if that works. Looks pretty good for old amateur shoddy work right there. Just get a piece of trim to fit that bottom right down here. Okay, well that does that, guys. So I think that turned out pretty good. Other than drilling a hole here that I capped that was the wrong spot. And I tell you, I'm not going to be building any guitars or Steinway pianos anytime soon. So woodworking is not something that, you know, especially trim stuff like this. But it's pretty good compared to what it was before. You know, we're going to move on to the next project, and we'll see you guys on the next one. We appreciate you watching too.